It all started on a rainy Tuesday morning, the kind where raindrops race each other down the glass and the world feels just a little quieter. The camera would open on the gates of a sprawling, modern mansion, steel and glass glistening in the gray light. And in the voiceover, you'd hear, "They say money can buy anything, except the things that truly matter." But that day, a billionaire CEO's decision would change 3 lives forever. If you're watching this now, stick with me until the end, because you won't believe how a simple choice made by a little girl turned into a story that will touch your heart. And if stories of kindness, redemption, and unexpected connections mean something to you, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss the next one. Inside the mansion, Victor Duval, one of the wealthiest tech CEOs in the country, sat at the edge of his leather chair, scrolling through an endless list of resumes on his tablet. His 11-year-old daughter, Emily, sat curled up on the sofa, clutching her favorite worn-out book of fairy tales. Victor was used to solving billion-dollar problems, but now he faced one that felt strangely impossible: finding the perfect French tutor for Emily. Her grades were slipping, and with her mother gone, Victor wanted the best for her. But what Emily needed was more than perfect grammar and conjugations, though Victor didn't realize it yet. He sighed. "Emily, I've narrowed it down to 3 highly recommended tutors from Paris. All graduates from the Sorbonne. I'll let you meet them tomorrow." Emily didn't even look up from her book. "Can I pick my own?" Victor frowned. "Sweetheart, this isn't a game. Your education." "Dad," she interrupted, her voice soft but firm, "let me choose. Please." The next day, instead of the polished, overqualified tutors Victor had lined up, Emily made her father stop the car in front of the small local library. That's where she had seen him, a tall man in a worn leather jacket, his hair just starting to gray at the temples. He was sitting at a corner table, helping a little boy sound out words from a French children's book. The boy's backpack was patched in several places, and the man's smile was the kind that warmed the room despite the rain outside. "That's him," Emily said, pointing. Victor blinked. "Him? He doesn't even look like." But before he could finish, Emily had stepped out of the car and walked straight toward the man. His name was Daniel Cole. A former army linguist who had served in multiple tours overseas, Daniel had returned home to a life that felt much smaller than the one he left. He was a single father to 8-year-old Max, juggling night shifts at a security job while picking up part-time tutoring to keep food on the table. French wasn't just a language to him, it was a bridge to memories of a time before war and loss. When Emily approached him, she simply asked, "Will you teach me French?" Daniel glanced at her father, who was now standing a few steps behind, his expensive umbrella barely containing his impatience. Well, I'm not exactly a certified teacher," Daniel said carefully. Emily smiled. "That's okay. I think you're the right one." Victor wanted to object, to explain that they could afford the best of the best, but something in the way Daniel spoke to Emily, genuine, unhurried, made him pause. Against his instincts, he agreed to a trial week. From day one, Daniel's lessons were nothing like the ones Victor imagined. They met at the library, not in a classroom. He taught Emily French through stories and songs, sometimes bringing Max along so they could all practice together. They didn't just conjugate verbs, they cooked crepes, labeled objects around the library, and even learned French lullabies. Emily began laughing again in a way Victor hadn't seen since her mother passed. But there were challenges. One afternoon, Victor overheard another parent whispering at the library about how inappropriate it was for a billionaire's daughter to be spending so much time with a man who could barely afford his own rent. That night, Victor confronted Daniel. "I appreciate what you're doing," Victor began, his tone clipped, "but people talk. Maybe it's better if..." Daniel stood up, his voice steady. "With respect, sir, I'm not here for your approval. I'm here because your daughter asked me to be. She doesn't need perfection. She needs someone who sees her, not just her last name." The words stung because they were true. That night, Victor remembered how lonely Emily had been for the past 2 years. And for the first time, he realized Daniel was giving her something money couldn't buy: a sense of normalcy, of being understood. The turning point came during Emily's school recital. She was supposed to recite a short poem in French, but halfway through, she froze, her voice trembling. From the audience, Daniel stood, caught her eye, and began softly reciting the first lines with her. Max joined in from his seat. Soon, Emily found her courage and finished perfectly, her smile beaming across the room. After the recital, Emily ran to Victor and whispered, "See? I told you he was the right one." Months passed, and Daniel became more than just a tutor. He became a friend to Victor and a role model for Emily. Victor learned about Daniel's sacrifices in the army, his struggles as a single father, and his quiet resilience. One evening, Victor invited Daniel and Max to dinner at the mansion. It wasn't fancy, just spaghetti and garlic bread, but it was the first time the dining room felt like home. In the end, Victor didn't just hire a tutor. He gained a friend who taught him that wealth means nothing if it can't be shared. Emily learned that the right teacher isn't the one with the fanciest degree, but the one who believes in you. And Daniel? He found a place where his kindness and patience weren't just appreciated, they were life-changing. As the rain finally gave way to sunshine, Victor found himself smiling more often. Not because of a new business deal, but because of a single, unexpected choice his daughter made in a library one rainy afternoon. And if you're still here listening, maybe that's the message you needed today. Sometimes, the smallest decisions can lead to the biggest changes. So if this story touched you even a little, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more stories that remind us of the good still left in the world. Because you never know, the next one might just change your life, too. Victor didn't realize it at first, but the bond between Emily, Daniel, and Max was beginning to ripple through his own guarded heart. The mansion, once echoing with silence, began to feel alive again, filled with the sound of laughter, French phrases floating through the hallways, and the occasional clatter from the kitchen when Emily insisted on teaching her dad how to flip a crepe. One Saturday, Victor noticed something unusual. Emily was in the garden with Max, kneeling in the dirt, planting tiny herbs Daniel had given them. She was teaching Max French names for each plant: basilic, menthe, romarin. Victor stood by the window for several minutes, watching his daughter's face light up. It wasn't just the language she was learning. She was learning compassion, patience, and joy, the kind of lessons no textbook could give. But not everything was smooth. A sudden storm hit the city one evening, knocking out power across their neighborhood. Victor, used to comfort and control, was frustrated until Daniel showed up at their gate, Max bundled in a blanket, carrying a lantern and a bag of groceries. "Figured you might need some company," Daniel said with a grin. They spent the night cooking by candlelight, telling stories, and even teaching Victor to say bonne nuit without sounding like a confused tourist. That night, after Emily had gone to bed, Victor found himself asking Daniel something he rarely asked anyone. "Why did you say yes to her that day at the library?" Daniel thought for a moment. "Because I saw myself in her. When I came home from the army, I felt lost. No one seemed to understand me. But that day, when she walked up, she wasn't looking for a perfect teacher, she was looking for someone who'd try." Those words stayed with Victor. He realized that in his world of high expectations and relentless goals, he'd forgotten the power of simply trying, for his daughter, for himself, for others. Months later, when Emily's school announced a French cultural fair, she asked Victor to be there, front row. She stood on stage, speaking with confidence and grace, introducing a recipe she'd made with Daniel and Max, crêpes aux fraises et à la crème. As she spoke, her eyes found Daniel in the crowd, then her father. When the applause came, it was thunderous. But the proudest moment wasn't the award she received, it was the way she ran to Daniel and hugged him first, before wrapping her arms around her father. On the drive home, Emily leaned against Victor's shoulder. "See, Dad? I didn't just learn French. I learned family." Victor swallowed hard, his chest tight in the best way possible. "Yes, sweetheart. You did." That night, Victor sat in his study, looking out at the rain-washed city lights. He knew now that some opportunities in life aren't found in resumes or contracts, they're found in the quiet courage of a little girl walking up to a stranger and saying, "Will you teach me?" So if you've been watching this story until now, maybe this is your sign. Don't be afraid to choose differently, to trust your heart instead of the safe option. And if you felt even a spark of warmth from Emily, Daniel, and Max's journey, give this video a like, share it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness still wins, and hit subscribe so you can be here for the next story. Because sometimes, the best people come into our lives